so many turmoils of life. And during those turmoils of life, I was wondering, what is life? If this is life, then what is life? Because most of the time, we just go. ठीक है, यही है. So I asked this question, if this is life, and if I am living this life, so the question number one is why I am living this life. Why there is a difference between me and the other person who is living life in a different way. Then the second question comes, is it possible for me to get out of that zone in which I am and go in a different direction, in a different zone, in order to experience the real life? तो क्वेश्चन तो छोड़ दिया, अब इसके आंसर, क्वेश्चन छोड़ना तो आसान है. Then that's how the journey started. So it's a long journey, but if I tell in very few words, we all have explored the outer reality in our own way. But there is a mechanism within. We actually don't know the complete mechanism of the body. And we want to experience the mechanism of the mind. So there is a chemistry of body and there is a chemistry of mind. So the chemistry of body can be explored if you are in a space of medicine, for instance. The chemistry of mind can be explored when you are familiar with philosophies, or when the philosophy inside awakens you. There is a possibility to experience the chemistry of mind. But then there is a space which is untouched, which is the chemistry of love, that can only be experienced through inner journey. So this was my realization. And I have explored all the religions, I have gone through so many mystics, so many masters. So, for instance, I really like this idea of Jesus when Jesus says, God is love. But in my reality, what I have experienced is love is God. So, these kind of realizations when I had, so I questioned myself, okay, how it would be if I stay in the state of constant joy, how that state would be. So when I explored that state, so that state is very meditative. There is a meditation which our mind says to our mind, then let's meditate. This is situation A. In situation B, the consciousness itself becomes the observer. And that observer is in a deep meditative state. And in that state, whatever you are doing, you are in meditation. Your food becomes the meditation. When you interact, that becomes very meditative. Your walk becomes very meditative. When you dance, you are in total ecstasy. So what I have experienced is, when I had this question, is it possible to meditate? Because when I say I meditate, so that I is equals to ego. So from that ego space, I am saying that I meditate. It is like I have given money to this chap. I am doing this. I am doing that. So the question comes, is it possible to remove that I and let the meditation remains? So when I went deeper into that state, so I uncovered this state. I didn't know that time that that state is Nirvikalp Samadhi, in which there are no thoughts. There is only you, absolutely you, with yourself. The state in which you remains totally with yourself. And everything disappears. So that space is an outcome of inner journey. So for me, inner journey is actually life. And through inner journey, there is a possibility to reach somewhere. Those who have seen the sea, they must have seen the sunset. वो एक जहां पे सूर्य दिखता है उसको क्षितिज कहते हैं. ऐसा लगता है कि जहां पर वो सूर्य दिख रहा है वहीं तक दुनिया है. बट द मोर यू गो इनटू द सी, you find there is no end. So as truth, when Krishnamurti says truth is a pathless land, it is exactly that pathless land, where there is a possibility to go, but there is no end, because where you will go. And that's why those who have explored, those who have experienced the Zen mystics, they have said very beautiful thing: nowhere to go, arrived. So in this moment, if you are with yourself, you are the Buddha. So actually, in reality, we all are unrealized Buddha. The moment we realize that we are Buddha, we are Buddha. So that doesn't change the situation. When the subject becomes the object, and when the object becomes the subject, that is the state where the Buddha unfolds. तो ये हमारी जो एक कॉन्शियसनेस है, इसका एक स्वभाव है, इसका एक नेचर है. इसका नेचर ये है, फॉर इंस्टेंस लेट्स से we all are in the lower planes. पुराणों में, उपनिषदों में इसको मृत्यु लोक कहते हैं, पृथ्वी का. So let's assume this is a lower dimension, this is the lower level. So when the lower meets the higher, how that would be? Okay? The consciousness has a nature, and the nature is that the lower self wants to meet to the higher self. And this is the whole life. वो जिसको हिंदू धर्म ने 84 लाख योनियां कहा है, वो भी यही है. जो उपनिषदों में, पुराणों में जिसका वर्णन आता है, वो भी सब यही है. कि कहने का मतलब है कि when we are born with a frequency, and the purpose of that frequency is to raise its vibration in order to reach to the higher dimension. So that is the purpose. उस उद्देश्य के साथ हम सब लोग यहां पर पैदा हुए. अब now the question comes, we must reflect on our life. In the very morning when I wake up, what am I doing? We must ask this question to ourselves. Who am I? What am I doing? What is the purpose of my existence? What am I here for? These questions are the fundamental questions. You will not get the immediate answer. But the important thing is not the answer. The important thing is the question. The moment you deeper the question, something starts unfolding. And that you cannot explain in words. That is something which is experiential.